I will I will give my own introduction. I guess I could call somebody up to do it, but I'm going to give my own introduction. I am Jim Gusky. I am the chairman of the Catholic Committee on Scouting for the Diocese of Nashville, and I serve in a lot of different roles and capacities with the district and the troop that I'm connected with or registered with. I like Dylan and several others here, I did not experience scouting as a youth. I got my youth experience starting at the age of 43 with my son in 1993. I'd walked through Cub Scouts with him, but I had never registered. So I'm coming up on my 33rd anniversary in June of this year. And I don't apologize for this. My scouts have trouble with me because I'm a black and white person. There are rules that you follow. If you don't follow them, there are consequences to be paid, okay? Society doesn't like that now. I'm sorry. That's their problem, not mine. What we're about to go through here is a pastoral letter issued by the bishops from the USCCB, from the Committee on Laity, Marriage, Family Life, and Youth. This presentation was presented to the NCCS by Maria Parker in October of 2024, and I lay no claim to it except transferring it from a PDF format to a PowerPoint. With that being said, what we're going to do is go through and look at how the bishops view youth ministry to young people. And there are 3 documents that were prepared previous to this one. Sons and Daughters of Light are 2 documents. Renewing the Vision and Listen, Teach, Send is the 3rd one. There's also a papal encyclical called Christus Vitae, which Bill referred to last night, issued by Pope Francis. And we're going to take a real good dive into Listen, Teach, Send. It will provide practical ideas for implementing this document. There's the 3 documents that were published by the USCCB. Sons and Daughters of Light. It was published in 1996, at least that's what that says, yes. Was a pastoral plan for young adults, those in their late teens, 20s, and 30s. And they recognize the gift of a young life, adults in the church, and the hope was that the pastoral plan to serve those would serve to connect the youth, young adults with Jesus Christ and the gospel. Very interesting format to use the word hope there. I think St. Paul refers to hope being one of the best parts of life. There's 5 parts to that, or actually there's 4, 5-part pastoral plan with 4 goals. Connecting young adults with Jesus Christ, connecting young adults with the church, connecting young adults with the mission of the church worldwide, and then connecting young adults with a peer community. Renewing the Vision. This was published in 1997, and I think actually, quite frankly, I believe that Pope John Paul II, or now St. John Paul II, was instrumental in getting the bishops to actually publish this document. And it builds on the document a vision of youth ministry that was published in 1976. Part of what I went through scouting in the Catholic Church in 2015, and they referred to the document, A Vision of Youth Ministry. I went and bought a copy of it because I had never heard of it. So from 1993 until 2015, the youth ministry aspect of scouting was quite literally not in my wheelhouse. Okay? A call to make ministry with adults a concern for the entire church, community, especially for leaders in the parishes, schools, and dioceses. One of the aspects of my youth, or my teenage year, my adolescent years, was that I grew up in a small town. We had 5 families in our church, and it was a mission church to a larger parish. A priest was assigned there. He had been a teacher at Father Ryan High School here in Nashville for several years. Worked with the wrestling team because he was a collegiate wrestler. And my brother was 2 years older than me, and he would come and get us and take us to Columbia, where the parish was, and we would go to a high school there, and he would teach us how to wrestle collegiately. Very instrumental, and he was one of those mentors that I refer back to. And he was very instrumental in my youth, at least, or in my adolescence. This document, Renewing the Vision, has 3 goals. One is to empower young people to live as disciples of Christ, drawing young people to responsible participation in life, mission, and work of the faith community, and fostering the personal and spiritual growth of each young person. Listen, Teach, Send. It was published in 2024. And as it states, a pastoral framework. It was inspired by Christus Vitae, which we just were mentioned, published in 2019. And it is an apostolic exhortation from Pope Francis. A summons of local faith community across the country to renew their efforts with youth and young adults. This is the most interesting part of it to me, is the road to Emmaus. We've heard that gospel proclaimed in Mass many times, and actually Andrew referred to Cursillo. That is the Emmaus story. Cursillo is the Emmaus story. How we transfer that to youth and young adults is what this document is trying to do. All 3 of these documents work together to provide a contact and our content and foundational principles in ministries with youth and young adults. And we have a new generation of people to call upon in the church to discern their ways to ministering to them. The scripture and tradition of the church do not change from generation to generation. That Father Troy mentioned that in his talk, is that our bishops, our pastors, are the keeper of the deposit of faith, is what I've been told. And that deposit of faith is the tradition with a big T and the scriptures. we go in and we look at this. Wherever this letter finds you, we invite you to follow Jesus. And he is the most important companion you will ever have on your journey of life. He transforms you so that Christ always remains alive in you. I think probably what they're referring to there is, I've heard some youth ministers talk about the aha moment that a child has or a youth has when they finally realize that they were created by God in a special likeness to God as a son or daughter of God. That's really crucial that they come to that awareness. Some of us have struggled through our life to finally come to that moment, not so much in youth, but in old age. Now, the narrative of this message is a renewal and grounded in the journey of two disciples on the road. It shows how a young person can recognize God at work in their lives, interpret their experiences in light of faith, and discover and choose to follow their vocation and mission. We always hear about mission because if you don't have a mission, it's a target that you put up there you aim at. And if you don't have that target, you're not going to hit anything. A transformation or a metanoia. Metanoia is a big Greek word. Literally, it means to turn around. Go in a different direction. And obviously, Jesus first listened to the disciples walking along the road to Emmaus. Then he spoke to them, or he taught them. And then once he had an interaction with them later, he finally sent them out. It sounds like they chose to go back to Jerusalem. Actually, I think he provoked them to go back to Jerusalem. Following Christ's example, we're called to do the same. It's hard. Believe me, it's hard. I've failed miserably in the years as a scoutmaster with the youth that have come in my contact because I am black and white in what I do and what I say. So I need to change my black and white to conform with what Jesus taught us. Listen, it's an encounter. It's a presence. It's an understanding. Teach. You speak to them. You teach them. Catechesis is another one of those Greek words. It literally means to teach. Truth and love, that's the hard part. You do something out of love and a scout will think, oh, you're so mean. And later on he comes back and he says, thank you. And it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. I can't tell you the number of scouts that have come back to me and said, you were right. And you want to incorporate the sacramental life. Sin, you've got to be a bold witness. And you've got to have charity and justice. And protagonism, I'm not real sure I can fit that one in there unless it falls in that hunger category. Listening involves a meaningful encounter with a steadfast presence and an authentic desire to know and understand youth and young adults in the reality of their lives, where they are. Not where you are, where they are. Once we have truly listened, we can be formed, and we can go even deeper. That is from Listen, Teach, Send. And this just, again, this reinforces the listening part of it. Probably the one that I like best is healing brokenness. When you have that reaction of you're mean, you've got to go back and heal that brokenness. You've got to stay with them through their brokenness so that you do build trust. Because if you just walk away from them and leave them, you're not helping them. Again, we've got a quote from the Listen, Teach, Send. The part that I got out of this, the most, I guess, poignant part is we are not listed as primary teachers. And when I say we, I'm talking about scoutmasters, whatever you do in the role of scouting. We're secondary. The primary teachers of the children, youth, and young adults are their parents. And that's in all things. Not just their faith, but in all things. A child learns to walk at home. A child learns to speak, talk at home with their parents, with their siblings. We reinforce that because, as Father Troy said, we find it difficult to deal with them because they can't articulate what they want to say. They can't write what they want to write because they haven't been taught. So this is very important that we help them to learn through listening. Teaching. The part that amazes me about being Catholic is that I've spent probably longer studying Catholicism than I have been a scout or a scouter, because I started in probably 1986. I was 36 years old, and we had moved back to Nashville, and I entered in the parish. We had a deacon who had a class on Sunday following the 9 o'clock Mass. First thing I did is I went and sat in that class. And ultimately, he moved on. Somebody had to step up to be the leader. I got nominated because I was there on a consistent basis. That's the big thing. Be consistent, be there. I tried to restart it this year with an adult, what we call adult Sunday school. I know a lot of Catholics would go, "Oh my God, you're going Protestant." No, we still need to learn, even at a ripe old age of 74, soon to be 75, I'm still eager to learn about the Catholic faith. There's a lot to learn. So in the teaching, you've got to have the catechesis. You've got to be able to share the truth about love and in a loving manner. And you've got to be able to renew the sacramental life. Okay, positive experiences. I've already talked about one with a priest that was positive in my life. Recently, we had a pastor for 3 years, and again, he was a positive experience for me, positive individual. I don't think it stops when we become the example, okay? Because you still got to find somebody to mentor you the rest of your life. Send. The big thing that I got out of this was the bold evangelization and the vocational discernment. It's hard when you've been married 52 years to think of anything other than, oh, I'm married. It seems like yesterday that my wife and I were standing at the altar exchanging vows. So that's the part about the sin. So what do we do, or what does this mean for our ministry of Catholic Scouting? How do we provide opportunities for young people to voice their feedback, needs, joys, and concerns? Okay, how many have been in Wood Badge? What do they tell us about feedback? It's a gift. And I'm going to criticize my community members right here in front of everybody, God and everybody that's here. When I send out an email asking for an opinion or your thoughts, I'm looking for a response, not crickets. Okay? Because I don't want to be unilateral and make a decision that says, this is what we're going to do. Okay? It's important that you get as many opinions as you can. I had a wise man tell me once, and he was a president of a construction company, a rather large construction company, and he had the wisdom to say to me, we were talking, and I pointed out something to him, and he said, you know what you want to do? You want to take your letter in to your supervisor that you've written and say, will you look at this to see if I'm saying what I should be? That's where I come from. I always seek somebody else's opinion. Because if it blows up, you can go back and say, you helped me, but it didn't work. So what are we going to do now? And that's really where you need to be with the Scouts. What do you think we should do? Big question. Always have problems with Scouts planning their calendar for the year. And the first question is, what do you want to do? And they go, oh no. And you go, I know better than that. Pick out something that you want to do. Put it on the top of the list. You know, we want to go to the USS Yorktown and spend the night. It's down at Charleston, anchored. And you can spend the night on the USS Yorktown. It's a miserable night, believe me. Because you're in the bunks where the sailors slept. And they're not comfortable. They call them racks, and that's exactly what they are. The other good thing about going there is that you figure out that when you see a buckhead and you're going through the buckhead, you pick up your feet. Because if you don't, you're going to have bruises on your shins about 12 inches off the floor. And it hurts. So, those are the things that we've got to do. We just got to make sure that we know what their needs and joys and concerns are. And the only way we can get that is to listen. Now, forming and equipping our local leaders as disciples. Okay? Disciple is a very special word because in Jesus' time, the rabbis would actually select the people who would become their disciples. That's exactly what Jesus did in his choice of the 12 apostles. Of course, he had a little bit of help because he knew their mind to begin with. It's kind of hard when you go through this process and try to figure out, we gotta have a disciple. So picking those leaders who will become disciples and who are not afraid to mentor young people in our faith. Okay? How are we forming young people as disciples of Jesus Christ? Through the help of God. That's the only thing I can tell you. Because young people come to us with what they've learned at home. Sometimes that's not the best education, even though their parents are the primary educators. So we have to correct that attitude, that behavior, and that's where they say, "Oh, you're mean," okay? And that's true, we are mean, because we have a standard that is set, and we expect them to follow that. Jesus established that standard, not us. That's the standard we need to follow. And what do we offer them sacramentally? Oh, if they only knew. It's, Light of Christ, Parvuli Dei, Ad Alitari Dei, Pope Pius XII. I'd love to have a Pope Pius XII group because that's where you find out where they are in their faith. You sit back as a facilitator, you say, "What do you think, Joe? What do you think, Jack? What do you think, Bill?" And you don't offer your opinion. That's not what a facilitator does. So you be there sacramentally for them. Of course, baptism is kind of off the table because unless you're invited in as a godparent, you really won't know that the child has been baptized unless it's an older child. And then you've got all the other sacraments, you can stand with them, even holy orders, because they need our prayers more than anything. Generations. How do we invite generations into leadership positions? And what can we do to develop this more? I guess I had a real, I had a dream of having 50 people here for this conference. It didn't happen, but we're close. We're closing in on 50. We're at 23 today, or 23 were registered. A couple have, two people were not able to attend because of extenuating circumstances. But you get people gathered together to talk about these things. Yes, it takes time and it's a commitment. And when you make a commitment to an organization, particularly scouting, we need to impose our Catholic faith on it and make it Catholic scouting. Any questions? By the way, the Listen, Teach, Send document, it's available. on the internet. If you put in the words "listen, teach, send," it will pop up at the top. And it's about a 30-page document, if I'm not mistaken, 30-something pages. And it's theological writing. I'm not going to debate that with you because it's been well thought out.
It's not as typical.
Well, it's not as typical, but it is still theological.
Yes.
And I've got one more slide, but I'm not going to bring it up. Like I said, this was presented by Maria Parker in October of 2024 to the executive committee. John told me that there was going to be an update to this. I said, great. He didn't know when it was going to be made, but
Probably at our
April meeting, the membership meeting in April, you'll get the full-blown new version if you attend.
It won't be a completely new version, but it will, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
It will outline what the next steps are from the USCCB. And that is what I alluded to when I talked last night about these regional gatherings that they're going to have. And we are going to, as the NCCS, be active participants in those gatherings from 2 points. We financially supported the USCCB in this regard. But the second thing is that we will have members of NCCS there that will be singing from the same prayer book, singing from the same hymnal as active participants there. And our other mission is to get the word out to all the scouting leaders in the various, those particular regions, that they are welcome to attend as participants in these regional gatherings. I wish I had more. I don't have more now, but that should become apparent in April. I know for a fact that there's going to be a gathering in Indianapolis, Philadelphia, Atlanta, and Denver this year. I don't know, the program will go over into 2026 as well. We don't know where those gatherings are going to be. But, for here, probably the easiest one,
Atlanta.
But those dates will become announced for sure in April.
Okay. Is there opportunity for us to serve on those?
Yes, there will be. We're working through our part. Father Gerard Gentleman, who is our national chaplain, graciously volunteered to, he really did, he volunteered to give us, that framework that us who go out and take part in these conferences will have. And he is working with Dr. Parker and all that right now. I've seen some drafts, and that's where they're at, the drafts.
Okay.
And because the USCCB, in all fairness, is working on what framework they want to have at these particular gatherings.
Okay.
But we're excited about it. I'm personally excited about it because I sat on a parallel effort for the USCCB on accompanying youth. And I was the grandfather in the room, or in the Zoom session. I volunteered to help out. I didn't know I was going to become the grandfather. But I did, and it is a parallel approach with this going on for listen, teach, send.
Right.
And and if anybody is interested, at the NFCYM this year, we had presentations given. I summarized 2 of the presentations that talk about the state of churches in society. And if you're interested, shoot me an email. What you're gonna get is my interpretation of the data. But the data is pretty solid data, and it's, I don't wanna say frightening, it's less It is less frightening than I thought it would be, but it is all critical to what we're trying to help the bishops do.
Good.
And sorry, Jake.
That's okay. Any other questions?
I don't really have a question. I just offer I think you connected the teaching component to the emblems program. I think the sending part is a little more difficult, honestly.
Yeah.
And every confirmation program, catechist has struggled with that aspect of it because it appears to be like graduation from religious formation, education for some. I would go back to one of the elements of the scouting program itself. If you don't have the creativity to come up with a sending program of your own, I'm assuming most councils participate in the scouting for food program. That's one element of being sent on initially a charitable basis to collect donations for food, but to go deeper into that, what is it like to be hungry in America? What is it like to live in neighborhoods where there are no grocery stores to shop in? Food insecurity. What's it like to be in a school such as mine where 52% of our kids are on the free and reduced lunch program? What does that mean in society? So it allows you to go as deep as you might be comfortable, but it's certainly a place that the church calls us to be as well. And you don't have to come up with something on your own.
Right.
The initial nexus of it is something that hopefully we're all participating in annually.
Well, I know that in our council, we have council-wide service projects that are taken care of. We actually do service at our camp, and it doesn't count for service hours. But that's okay. But we've got programs for that. And actually, we've got all 4 properties covered, hadn't we, with Round to It? That get the scouts or scouters out on one Saturday a month to work on cleaning up the camp, doing odd chores around that the rangers can't get to or don't want to do. That's usually the case. But along those lines, your Eagle projects always service hours. And the big requirement on the Eagle project is it's got to be to a nonprofit organization. Sometimes those are hard to find, but they're there. All right, anything else? We almost got back on time. We're in good shape. I don't think it'll take a full hour for us to eat, but if nothing else, then let's have a blessing and go forward to eat our lunch.